The fluorescent lights of Space Station Hope's medical lab hummed quietly as Dr. James Miller peered through his microscope. It was just another Tuesday in space, or at least that's what the calendar on his tablet said. After 3 years on the station, all the days seemed to blend together. The blood sample under his lens was one of hundreds he'd examined that month. As the lead researcher studying the effects of deep space radiation on human biology, he'd seen every possible variation of normal human blood cells. But this sample was different. "That's odd," he muttered, adjusting the focus. The blood sample, taken from a maintenance worker who'd been exposed to a strange radiation burst during a routine repair, seemed to shimmer with an unusual purple glow. At first, he thought it was a problem with his equipment. Dr. Miller ran his hand through his graying hair and checked the microscope's settings again. The glow remained. He'd never seen anything like it in his 20 years of medical research. "Computer, run a full spectrum analysis on sample 247B, he commanded. The lab's AI responded with a soft chime, and holographic displays sprang to life around him. The results made him drop his coffee mug. It shattered on the floor, but he barely noticed. "This can't be right," he whispered, staring at the readings. The blood cells weren't just glowing. They were generating a stable quantum field, something that should have been impossible according to everything he knew about biology and physics. He needed to verify his findings. "Computer, contact Dr. Anna White in Physics Lab 3. 10 minutes later, Dr. White stood beside him, her eyes wide as she watched the holographic display. "James, these readings, if they're accurate, this blood sample is creating a perfectly stable energy matrix. Do you understand what this means?" "I'm not sure I do," he admitted, still trying to process the implications. "Every advanced civilization we've encountered has been trying to create stable energy matrices for centuries. It's the key to everything, from faster-than-light travel to unlimited clean energy. And you're telling me it's happening naturally in human blood." The sample had come from Joe Peters, a 45-year-old maintenance worker who'd been exposed to an unknown form of radiation while fixing a panel on the station's outer hull. The radiation had come from a passing space phenomenon that the station's scientists hadn't been able to identify. Over the next 12 hours, Miller and White tested blood samples from 20 other station crew members who'd been exposed to the same radiation. Every single sample showed the same impossible properties. "We need to report this to Station Command," Dr. White said, her voice trembling with excitement. This could change everything. Station Commander David Brooks listened to their presentation in silence, his weathered face betraying no emotion. When they finished, he stood up and walked to the window, gazing out at the earth below. "Do you understand what you're saying?" he finally asked. "That human blood, when exposed to this specific type of radiation, can do something that the most advanced alien civilizations haven't achieved in thousands of years of trying." "Yes, sir," Miller replied, "and we verified the results multiple times. It's not just stable, it's perfectly stable. The energy matrix doesn't degrade at all." Commander Brooks turned back to face them. "Lock down your lab. Classify all your findings. I need to contact Earth Command immediately." He paused, looking at the holographic display of the glowing blood cells. "I have a feeling our quiet little research station is about to become the center of something much bigger than we ever imagined." As Miller walked back to his lab, he couldn't shake the feeling that they'd just crossed a threshold from which there was no return. Humanity had just stumbled upon something that would change their place in the universe forever. Little did he know, news of their discovery was already leaking into the vast galactic community, and eyes that had never before paid attention to Earth were now turning their gaze toward humanity's home. 3 weeks after Dr. Miller's discovery, Space Station Hope was surrounded by more ships than anyone had ever seen in Earth orbit. The massive vessels appeared suddenly, their sleek hulls gleaming in the sunlight. They were nothing like the bulky human spacecraft. These ships moved with a grace that seemed to defy physics. Inside the station's main conference room, Commander Brooks stood with his hands clasped behind his back, trying to hide his nervousness. Beside him, Dr. Miller fidgeted with his tablet, reviewing his notes for the 100th time. They were about to meet humanity's first official alien visitors. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Two tall figures entered, accompanied by a team of UN officials who had been rushed to the station. The aliens were humanoid, but their skin had a faint bluish tint that seemed to shift in the light. Their eyes were large and completely silver, without pupils. "I am Ambassador Vale of the Astral Confederation," the taller alien said in perfect English. Its voice had an odd musical quality. "We apologize for our sudden arrival, but your discovery made waiting for formal protocols impossible." Commander Brooks stepped forward. "We welcome you to Space Station Hope, Ambassador. Though I must admit, we're curious about how you learned of our research so quickly." The ambassador's silver eyes seemed to shimmer. "The universe listens more carefully than you might think, Commander. When your Dr. Miller confirmed the quantum stabilizing properties of human blood, the news spread faster than light itself through the galactic community." Dr. Miller couldn't contain himself any longer. "You mean you've known about these properties? You've been looking for them?" "For millennia." The second alien spoke, introducing itself as Science Director Wren. "Every advanced civilization has sought the key to stable quantum matrices. We've created vast computers, explored countless substances, studied millions of species. Yet here, in the blood of a species that has barely begun to explore space, we find what we've all been seeking." The ambassador moved to the window, gazing down at Earth. "Your blood, when exposed to specific radiation patterns, creates perfect quantum stability. Do you understand what this means?" Commander Brooks shook his head. "Perhaps you could explain it to us." "It means that human blood could revolutionize everything," Director Wren said. "Faster than light travel without massive energy costs. Perfect energy storage systems, even biological immortality treatments. The applications are endless." "And what exactly does the Astral Confederation want from us?" Brooks asked carefully. Ambassador Vale turned back from the window. "We propose an alliance. Your species would be granted full membership in the Confederation, with all the benefits that entails: technology, knowledge, protection. All of it would be yours. In exchange, we ask for regulated access to human blood donations." The room fell silent. Dr. Miller looked at his tablet, where the image of the glowing blood cells still shone. "Our blood is really that valuable to you?" "More than valuable," the ambassador replied. "It is precious beyond measure. Every drop of freely given human blood could save thousands of lives across the galaxy. Your species wouldn't just be joining galactic civilization. You would become one of its most important members overnight." As if to emphasize the point, one of the massive ships outside the window moved, its hull briefly catching the sunlight. The sight reminded everyone in the room just how small humanity was in the grand scheme of things. Commander Brooks straightened his uniform. "We'll need to discuss this with our governments, of course. This is a decision that affects all of humanity." "Of course," Ambassador Vale said smoothly. "But please, do not take too long." Now that the secret is out, the alien's silver eyes seem to darken slightly. "Others may come seeking what we ask for diplomatically." The implied warning hung in the air like a storm cloud. Humanity's place in the universe had changed forever, and there was no going back. Captain Tom Walker stood at the window of his patrol ship, watching Earth's largest blood donation center from orbit. The massive facility in New Delhi gleamed in the morning sun, its white walls stretching for several city blocks. 6 months after first contact, it was one of 50 such centers built around the world. "Sir, we've got movement at Gate 7, his officer called out. Another transport arriving. Through his enhanced vision display, Walker watched as an alien ship landed in the designated area. It was one of the approved Confederation vessels, following all the proper protocols. But lately, not every ship had been so law-abiding. His comm unit buzzed. "Captain, this is Control. We've got reports of an unauthorized collection attempt in Buenos Aires. Local forces requesting backup. Walker was already moving to the pilot's seat. Track the target. Team. Battle stations. The patrol ship's engines hummed to life as his crew scrambled to their positions. The world had changed dramatically since the Confederation's arrival. Human blood had become the most valuable substance in known space, and with that value came problems. Big problems. Their ship streaked through the atmosphere, breaking several regulations about sonic booms that nobody enforced anymore. As they approached Buenos Aires, Walker spotted their target, a sleek black vessel hovering over a residential area. Illegal harvester, this is Earth Security Force. Power down and withdraw immediately, Walker broadcasted on all frequencies. The black ship's only response was to power up its engines. They got 3 humans aboard, his scanner operator reported. Life signs weak but stable. Walker's jaw tightened. Another attempted kidnapping. Disable their engines. No one leaves Earth with stolen blood. The chase was brief but intense. Walker's ship, enhanced with Confederation technology, matched the smugglers' every move. When their disable beam finally hit, the black ship dropped like a stone. Local forces were waiting below with containment fields ready. Later, as medical teams treated the rescued victims, Walker received an urgent call from Dr. Miller at the Global Blood Research Center. "Captain, we've got a bigger problem." Miller's worried face appeared on the screen. "The black market is growing. Our satellites have detected at least 20 unauthorized blood processing facilities in remote areas. Some people are selling their blood directly to alien buyers." Walker rubbed his temples. "What's the Confederation doing about this?" "They're trying to help, but their laws weren't designed for this situation. Nobody expected blood to become a galactic currency overnight." Miller paused. "And there's something else. The processing facilities we found. Some of them have Confederation technology. You think they're involved?" "Not officially, but some of their people might be. The temptation is too great." Miller looked over his shoulder before continuing. "A single liter of properly processed human blood is worth more than all the gold on Earth." Walker's screen beeped with another alert. 3 more unauthorized collection attempts reported in different parts of the world. The smugglers were getting bolder. "We need better security," Walker said. "The donation centers are protected, but we can't guard every human on Earth." "The UN is voting on new measures tomorrow," Miller replied. "Mandatory blood tracking implants, restricted travel zones, genetic markers in all approved blood samples. But it might not be enough." Walker watched as his team secured the captured smuggler ship. Inside, they found elaborate blood collection equipment and stasis chambers. The smugglers had been planning to take much more than just 3 victims. "We'll make it enough," Walker said firmly. Humanity didn't reach the stars to become cattle for blood farms. As if to emphasize his point, another alert flashed on his screen. More unauthorized ships entering Earth's atmosphere. The night was far from over. And somewhere out in the darkness of space, more smugglers were plotting their next attempt to get their hands on the most valuable substance in the universe, human blood. The red emergency lights flashed through the halls of the Global Blood Research Center as Dr. Miller ran towards the main lab. 3 more colonies had gone dark in the past week. No contact, no distress signals, just silence. "Show me the numbers again," he called out to his assistant as he burst through the lab doors. The holographic displays lit up, showing population data from the affected colonies. New Mars colony, 500 people missing. Europa Station, 300. Titan Base, 700. The assistant readout. All disappearances happened during their night cycles. Miller's tablet beeped with an incoming call. Captain Walker's grim face appeared on the screen. "Doc, you need to see this. Sending you footage from a recovered security drone." The video showed a massive ship, unlike any they'd seen before. It was organic looking, with surfaces that seemed to pulse and shift. The footage showed the ship hovering over New Mars colony, dropping what looked like giant bubbles that engulfed entire buildings. "What are we looking at, Captain?" "The collector," Walker said quietly. "At least, that's what the Confederation's intelligence says. They're not just taking a few people anymore. They're harvesting entire colonies." Miller sat heavily in his chair. For months, he'd been trying to create synthetic human blood, hoping to solve the crisis. But every attempt had failed. "There's something else," he said, pulling up his research data. "We've discovered why they can't replicate human blood. The quantum properties, they're linked to human consciousness. The blood has to come from living, thinking humans to maintain its stability." Walker cursed. "So that's why the processed blood from willing donors works better than stolen blood." "Does the Confederation know this?" "They must suspect. But I don't think that's the worst part." Miller brought up another display. "Look at these readings from recovered victims. The harvesting process. It's getting more efficient. Someone's been studying human biology very carefully." A new alert flashed across their screens. Ambassador Vale was requesting an emergency meeting. An hour later, they gathered in the secure conference room. The ambassador's silver eyes were dimmer than usual, showing what they now recognized as signs of distress. "The collector is not what you think," Vale said without preamble. "It's not a single entity. It's a consortium of dying species, ancient civilizations that believe human blood is their last hope for survival." "How many?" Walker demanded. 12 species, all of them far more advanced than either humans or the Confederation. They've been watching Earth since your first radio signals reached space. Waiting. Planning. Miller felt a chill. Planning what? The complete harvest of humanity. Vale's voice was heavy. "Their ships are already moving into position throughout your solar system. They believe they can extract and preserve the blood of every human in controlled conditions. Their facilities are already built." Walker slammed his fist on the table. "The Confederation has to stop them. We have treaties." "The Confederation." Vale hesitated. "Some of our leadership believe allowing the harvest might be the most efficient solution. These species possess technology we barely understand. They're offering to share it all in exchange for non-interference." The room fell silent. Humanity's worst nightmare was coming true. They weren't just facing smugglers and criminals anymore. They were facing extinction. Miller's mind raced through the implications of his research. The connection between consciousness and blood stability, the improved results from willing donors. There had to be an answer there. "How long do we have?" he asked. "Their fleet will be in position within 2 weeks," Vale replied. "After that." Walker stood up, his face set with determination. "Then we have 2 weeks to find a way to stop them." "Doc, you said willing donors produce better results. Can you prove it? Scientifically?" Miller nodded slowly, an idea forming. Yes, I think I can. But I'll need help, and we'll need to move fast." Outside the window, Earth spun peacefully, its people still unaware that their blood had brought humanity to the brink of either extinction or revolution. Which one it would be would depend on what they discovered in the next 14 days. Dr. Miller hadn't slept in 3 days. The lab around him was chaos. Screens displaying data, holographic models spinning in the air, and dozens of blood samples glowing with that now familiar purple light. But one sample glowed brighter than all the others. "Captain, you need to see this," he called out to Walker, who was coordinating defense plans with other officers in the corner of the lab. "Look at these 2 samples." Walker walked over, his uniform wrinkled from too many hours on duty. On the display, 2 blood samples floated side by side. One shimmered weakly, while the other pulsed with brilliant energy. "The dim one is from a harvested victim," Miller explained. "The bright one is from a voluntary donor who knew exactly how their blood would be used. The difference in quantum stability is massive." "How massive?" Walker asked, leaning closer. 10 times more efficient. The willing donor's blood can power systems for 10 times longer. And there's more. Miller pulled up another display. The harvested blood degrades within days. But willing donations, they stay stable for months. Ambassador Vale, who had been quietly observing from the back of the lab, stepped forward. Their silver eyes were fixed on the displays. This changes everything. If we can prove this conclusively. A loud alarm cut through the air. One of Walker's officers rushed in. Captain, the collector's ships, they're moving. They're ahead of schedule. Everyone rushed to the windows. In the night sky above Earth, new stars were appearing, hundreds of them. The collector's fleet was arriving early. How long? Walker demanded. Hours, not days. They're positioning themselves around every major population center. Miller grabbed his tablet. I need to broadcast my findings. Now, to everyone. Humans, the Confederation, even the collector ships. They might not listen, Vale warned. They have to, Miller insisted. This isn't just about ethics anymore. It's pure science. Forcefully harvested blood is virtually worthless compared to willing donations. Their entire plan is flawed. Walker nodded sharply. Do it. Vale, we need the Confederation's communication channels. All of them. The next hour was a blur of activity. Miller prepared his data while Walker coordinated with Earth's defense forces. Vale worked their own channels, reaching out to both the Confederation and, surprisingly, some contacts among the collector species. Miller's broadcast was simple but powerful. He showed the data, the experiments, the undeniable proof. Forced collection of human blood would never give them what they wanted. The quantum properties they sought were intrinsically linked to human consciousness and free will. The very act of forcing humans to give blood destroys what makes it valuable. His voice rang out across every channel. But willing donation, that produces exactly what you're looking for. We can work together. We can find a solution that helps everyone. But it has to be done right. For one terrible hour, there was no response. The collector's ships hung in the sky like dark promises. Then, one by one, ships began to move. Not towards Earth, but away. The Confederation channels exploded with activity. They're responding, Vale announced, their silver eyes bright with excitement. The collector species, they're asking to negotiate. They want to talk about setting up legitimate donation programs. Walker let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. They believe us. They have to, Miller said, still watching his displays. The science is undeniable. And now they know, the only way to get what they want is to work with us, not against us. The lab erupted in cheers, but Miller held up his hand. This isn't over. We've stopped the invasion, but now we have to prove we can do this right. Humanity just became the most important medical resource in the galaxy. We need to make sure we handle that responsibility properly. Outside, the sky was clearing as more ships withdrew. The immediate crisis was over, but as Miller had said, this wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. Humanity had just changed the rules of the entire galaxy, not through weapons or technology, but through the simple power of free will and cooperation. 1 month after the collector crisis, the United Earth Council chamber was packed with representatives from across the galaxy. Humans sat side by side with members of the Confederation, and for the first time, delegates from the former collector species. Dr. Miller stood at the podium, his voice steady as he addressed the gathered crowd. The new Global Blood Donation Network is now fully operational. In its first month, we've seen over 10 million voluntary donations, all processed with perfect quantum stability. The chamber erupted in approving murmurs. On the massive screen behind him, data scrolled showing the incredible results. Willing donations were proving even more effective than their early tests had suggested. Captain Walker, now promoted to Director of Earth Security, stepped up next. All forced blood collection attempts have ceased. The black market has effectively collapsed because stolen blood is worthless compared to properly donated samples. In the audience, Ambassador Vale nodded in approval. The Confederation had undergone its own revolution. Those who had considered allowing the harvest of humanity had been removed from power, replaced by leaders who understood the importance of ethical cooperation. But this is just the beginning, Miller continued. We've made an even more remarkable discovery. He gestured, and new data appeared on the screen. Different human emotional states during donation produce different quantum signatures. Blood given with the specific intent to heal or help creates unique properties we're only beginning to understand. The delegates leaned forward, especially those from the former collector species. Their representatives no longer looked desperate or threatening. Instead, they showed genuine interest in working together. One of them stood up, their crystalline form catching the light. Our preliminary studies confirmed Dr. Miller's findings. The healing potential of intentionally donated human blood exceeds our highest expectations. Already, we've seen recovery rates triple in our medical facilities. Walker took the podium again. Earth is establishing new laws to protect both donors and recipients. No human can donate more than once every 2 months. All donations must be fully informed and voluntary. And most importantly, every species that receives human blood must contribute to our shared medical research. The changes were already visible in the chamber itself. Several of the alien delegates wore small silver pins, a new symbol showing they had contributed to Earth's scientific programs in exchange for ethical blood donations. We're not just trading blood anymore, Miller explained. We're creating a new kind of galactic medicine, one based on cooperation, not exploitation. The evidence was undeniable. Planets that had signed Earth's new medical treaties were reporting medical breakthroughs that would have been impossible just months ago. Diseases that had plagued species for millennia were being cured. Life expectancy rates were rising across the galaxy. A Confederation scientist rose to speak. The quantum signatures in human blood are teaching us something we should have realized long ago. The most powerful forces in the universe cannot be taken by force. They must be freely given. As if to demonstrate this point, the screen showed live feeds from donation centers around Earth. Humans of all ages and backgrounds were volunteering, each donation carefully processed and preserved. Every donor received full information about where their blood would go and how it would help. Miller looked out at the assembled delegates. 1 year ago, we discovered that human blood was the most valuable substance in the universe. Today, we know it's not just the blood that's valuable. It's the human spirit that gives it freely. The chamber filled with applause. Outside, Earth's cities gleamed in the sunlight, their skylines now dotted with state-of-the-art medical research centers. Ships from across the galaxy arrived and departed peacefully, carrying precious cargo that would save countless lives. Humanity had not just survived, they had changed the very nature of galactic civilization. Not through force or fear, but through the simple power of willing cooperation and the desire to help others. As the delegates filed out to sign the new treaties, Miller caught Walker's eye. They both knew this wasn't the end of their story. It was just the beginning of a new chapter in human history, one where humanity's greatest strength turned out to be their capacity for willing sacrifice to help others. 5 years had passed since the discovery that changed everything. Dr. Miller stood in the observation dome of the new International Blood Research Institute, watching ships dock at the massive medical complex that floated in Earth's orbit. The facility was humanity's greatest achievement, a place where science, medicine, and cooperation came together. Still admiring the view, Captain Walker, now Admiral Walker, joined him at the window. They had both aged since that first discovery, but their eyes still held the same determination. Hard not to, Miller replied. Remember when we thought the Hope Station was big? This place makes it look tiny. Below them, a ship from one of the former collector species was docking. These days, they were among Earth's strongest allies, their advanced technology freely shared in exchange for ethical blood donations. Latest reports are in, Walker said, handing Miller a tablet. The galactic death rate from major diseases has dropped 60% in the last 3 years. The quantum healing properties in willing donor blood have revolutionized medicine across 17,000 species. Miller nodded, remembering how it all started with a single blood sample under a microscope. And what about the new discovery? Walker grinned. The meditation programs are showing amazing results. When donors focus on healing thoughts during donation, the quantum stability rates are off the charts. The Confederation wants to start a joint research project. They walked through the Institute's halls, passing dozens of different alien species working alongside humans. The walls were lined with pictures showing the facility's history, the first donation center, the crisis with the collectors, the signing of the Galactic Medical Treaty. In the main donation hall, hundreds of comfortable chairs were arranged in circles. Donors sat peacefully, many with their eyes closed in meditation, while advanced medical systems collected their contributions. Each donor wore a small device that showed them exactly how their blood would be used and who it would help. Dr. Miller, a young researcher, rushed up to them. The results from the emotional resonance study are in. You were right. Blood donated with specific emotional intentions carries different quantum signatures. We can actually target specific types of healing now. Miller examined the data on the researcher's tablet. What had started as a simple discovery had grown into an entirely new field of science. They were learning that human consciousness could influence matter in ways nobody had imagined possible. Ambassador Vale, now a permanent Earth resident, joined them. The Galactic Council has approved the expansion project. 10 more facilities like this one will be built across Earth's solar system. And the security situation? Walker asked, ever vigilant. Not a single forced collection attempt in 2 years, Vale replied. The black market is dead. Why steal something that loses all its value in the process? They reached Miller's favorite spot, a huge window overlooking Earth. The planet looked different now, dotted with the gleaming towers of medical research centers. Humanity had become the heart of galactic medicine, not through conquest or technology, but through the simple act of willing sacrifice. You know what still amazes me? Miller said, watching a group of alien medical students listening to a human instructor. We thought we were so small in the galaxy. Turns out we had something incredibly precious all along. We just needed to learn the right way to share it. Walker nodded. And in the process, we taught the galaxy something it had forgotten, that the greatest power comes from working together. Below them, another group of donors was entering the facility. Humans from every corner of Earth, coming voluntarily to help species they would never meet. Each donation would save dozens of lives across the galaxy. Each willing gift would heal wounds, cure diseases, and bring hope to distant worlds. We found our place in the universe, Miller said quietly, not as conquerors or victims, but as healers. Outside the window, Earth turned peacefully in the darkness of space. Humanity had written a new chapter in the history of the galaxy, proving that the most valuable substance in the universe wasn't just the blood in their veins. It was the compassion in their hearts that made them willing to share it.